we usually, like, when we go through daily life, like we're not necessarily in touch with, or they might like pop up every once in a while, and we don't necessarily want to listen, or we want to ignore them. So the work focuses very much on that as well, and not only on the realness of the body.
One of the words that I would use to describe the style of your work is poetic. And through this poetic style, you have suddenly recontextualized as rather than now, objects and scenes as allegories for the female body and psyche. Would you care to explain some of these images in greater detail for us?
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to decipher it in a way, you know, like you say, like it's poetic, and that's what it's supposed to be. Like it's these images, and hopefully you guys come over to Gallery 205, because you'll see the body of work in at a bit of a different scale, and all these like multi-layers that this body work exists on. And so it's kind of, I see it over the time, I kind of feel like I found my voice, or I found like this kind of language that is, as you said, very much poetic. And I see it like as a poem or something. And sometimes if, you know, if you read a poem, you don't necessarily understand every single word, or you don't really understand really, but you get like an emotion, or you get like something that's triggered, something, and then you can ask somebody to say, you know, like a very smart university person, saying, can you please come up with an interpretation for this? And then you might decipher it, but it doesn't necessarily make the poem any better, or you know, it might even take away from that feeling that you have. Like, it's kind of like listening to a song as well, or watching a movie, and sometimes you just don't know exactly what it is about, but it leaves you with an emotion, and it triggers something. And I think that's what I tried when I worked on this project, was like trying to find a way to hit the right tone, given expressing what's going on inside of me, while also, of course, being aware and wanting this body work to be universal, so that it's not all about me. It is something that people can relate to, and that they kind of can, like, know there's something for them going on as well. And so it's kind of trying to hit the right note. I mean, it's like not being too literal, not being too loud, not being too like performative in that way of like acting something out, but like being kind of like subtle in my language, that it would trigger something, and without kind of being too overpowering.
I actually had to look at your images for a long time. Some of my close friends say that I have a gift for interpreting images, and I hope that some of you are able to visually interpret those so that you can get the rich depth and psychological meaning. I think they're wonderful. Are you sure you don't want to tell us a little bit about them?
I don't want to necessarily, like say, this candy apple stands for. I mean, this is like, for me, like, this is like an image from this is actually like the first image I took for the Night Still series. And I feel like it's like like if I have like this range of volume in this body of work, like going from like loud to a little quieter, this is definitely like one of the, for me, like the louder ones. And I mean, like, I feel like, I mean, it's quite obvious what this image relates to. I mean, there's, you know, the candy and the dripping, and it's like, it's red. So, you know, like, you know, one could think of blood, I don't know. I mean, there's all these images for sure revolve around certain topics. This is, like, I mean, it's it's the body, it's like the female body, but it's also like the topic of mortality. It's the topic of change, of how we are in our lives, like faced. When we go through life, you know, kind of like hoping for like always like the good scenario, things will turn out the way we anticipated, or we, you know, hope that our dreams get, you know, come true. And then, but what if things don't work out the way you want them to be, or if something just hits you and you don't know how to respond, and that's where the time actually is coming from, the lying still. It's that kind of deer in the headlight that it's referring to. It's kind of like something's going on and you just have to kind of stop and catch your breath, and because you don't actually know what your next move is. So all these symbols I'm using, or all these, like the vocabulary I build up, or the language I'm speaking, they all kind of like refer to this. They refer to our, like really what is like underneath, like what is there to, you know, in your quiet moment that will come up, that what's going on in your subconscious, like your dreams, your anxieties, your yeah, like the juicy stuff. That's like, I mean, yeah.
I think of the apple as a symbol of fertility. Is that something that you're considering here?
Yeah, I mean, the apple has like so many, the apple is so loaded, like as a symbol in terms of, you know, you think of Adam and Eve, the wisdom, knowledge, and then there's the reference, so there's that reference, and like this really ultimate symbol for, you know, Eve took the apple and had a bite, and so that's definitely there. And then there's the candy. I feel like, I mean, that's the reason why this image happened, was like more like my thoughts around there's something really beautiful and something really delicious that just went bad, right? Like no one wants to really have a bite of this anymore. And so, you know, if it's like yeah, so it kind of like reflects maybe on like our mortality, you know, our aging, and when things kind of like expire, and something sweet gets turns into like something.
The temptation and the seductiveness is being quickly lost here,
Yeah.
from forbidden fruit, so to speak, as it starts to age. And I think that's a great metaphor for the female body, unfortunately. Seriously. This next image, maybe you think works in context with the next one?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this whole project is, you'll hopefully see it on Friday. It's a book. This is, I mean, it started out to be a diary, so the book format just like really made sense. And what I did, and why people maybe like are a little startled or like, kind of like, what is this? What's going on with these black and white images? So what I did over time is like I worked on these images over time, like the self or the portraits, and then I also worked on these installations or still lifes. And what I did over the course of the last year was I researched and included found images of the internet. Like I mostly found them on eBay, some like flea markets. And they're mostly black and white images of women from the 50s and 60s, kind of like modeling or kind of out of the context of like advertising, women representing, like being like this kind of role of representing something. And then I also included other images, like of course, or there's describing natural disasters. And so by doing this, I kind of created this like multi-layered narrative that I felt was necessary to kind of open up my project to something a little bit more universal. I mean, all the time when I took these images of my own body, and it was like, I mean, it started out to be such a personal project, but as I said, like, the longer I worked on it, I realized that it's not so much all about me or what's going on for me. I'd say it's just like going on for anybody else as well. Like, it's like I'm talking about a very universal experience. And, I could say the human condition of like what it is to be human, to be faced with mortality and to be faced with change. And so by including these black and white images, I felt like I created this dialogue between like my personal images, but also like these kind of like, more universal images of women. And so the whole body work turned out into like a bit more of a meditation on female identity or womanhood and the female representation.
Birthe, I found your images to be particularly reminiscent of the notion of abjection. French psychoanalyst Julie Cristeva is most noted for developing the term of abjection to the point which we now understand it to be. Through her monumental essay, The Powers of Horror, an essay on objection. The abject is defined as that which is cast off or expelled. The term has been applied to various entities that are not quite subjects or objects in themselves. Examples include filth or waste, whether food that is slightly off or expired, bodily fluids and other personal detritus, such as toenail clippings, vomit, and menstrual blood, and even the entire body or corpse of that which was once a subject. We have a deeply set fear of these abject entities, which are kept separate and distinct from ourselves through cultural and ritualistic cleansings, lest their presence should threaten to consume us. Were you thinking of the abject when you were creating these works?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to gross out anyone. These images, sometimes it's really hard to say, like, they refer to our subconscious or to these, what is hidden. And that's where they also have their origin. I don't want to say, like, I woke up and I have this, like, I just woke up with this image. These images have, like, they evolve and there's like a long process in terms of trial and error and what's too much and what's too little. And I'm definitely, as I said, I'm looking at the female body, and I'm looking at my body as, the origin of the project was that the moment where my body did weird things. So looking at this, looking at sickness and looking at something that stopped working, that might have expired. So these are all like references I'm making. Like, I'm not necessarily like, I don't have to see menstrual blood, or I don't have to work with my toenail clippings in order to really, make like a very honest statement about like the reality of the body. I like it to be a little bit more subtle. Well, this is, I also find like a pretty straightforward image, especially in the combination with that horse before. That's kind of how they are kind of sequenced in the body as well. And these are probably like the images that make like the strongest reference to the body in that way of being vulnerable, being also like, especially a female body, like coming with an expiry date, and
Thank you, Birthe. Of course, one cannot speak of Cristeva without mentioning Freud in the same breath. Cristeva's expression of horror in the face of the abject is an extension of Freud's theory of the uncanny. The The uncanny has been a popular theme in postmodern art. The uncanny is something familiar, such as the home or the body, but which becomes strange and unfamiliar. It is something that should have been kept a secret, a repression contained to our subconscious, but which is instead revealed, creating a reaction of strangeness and even horror. In 2007, I began to break down in every way imaginable. My life had become so meaningless that I felt like I was dying inside. I had some success shortly out of art school, but by this time my gallery in New York had closed down, leaving me with unpaid production bills on top of my already massive student loan debt. My mentor had abandoned me. I was having no luck with grant or residency applications and had to cancel on 3 different offers for solo shows due to financial and time restraints. I felt like I was no longer an artist. My relationship was faltering and I retreated socially, drifting into obscurity. My day job was becoming toxic to my health, and many people close to me were either falling ill or were being hit by the economic crisis. The stress seemed to be killing me. Strange things were happening to my body, which seemed to have turned against itself. I began suffering from migraines, vomiting, excruciating and frequent chest pain, faintness, shortness of breath, dizziness, lightheadedness. These were all frequent and extremely debilitating. Eventually, I had to abandon my job and my relationship. I left work for Christmas holidays in an ambulance that year. And of course, depression was a major and constant threat. Being awake was simply too painful, and sleeping was an escape from the pain. I often slept during the day with strange and lucid dreams in which I could not wake up. Any medical help I got from doctors was always in the form of a pill, which I often combined with alcohol in a desperate attempt to numb the symptoms. It was only in photo editing that I realized the third meaning of this work, that it was a suicide shot. Drawn from earlier inspiration by French philosopher, sociologist, and literary theorist Jean-Francois Lyotard, I used the only resources I had, which were my apartment, my camera, and my computer, to record what I was experiencing. In his essay, What is Postmodernism?, Lyotard writes, "It must be clear not to supply reality, but to invent allusions to the conceivable which cannot be presented." I have always found this statement best describes my photographic art practice, which focuses on subverting the photograph as a document. The list of symptoms that I had was quite extensive, and sometimes the treatment of those symptoms added strange, new, uncanny experiences to how my body felt. Old demons from previous years returned, and at the pinnacle of suicidal depression, I was unable to swallow food. I could put it in my mouth, but some invisible lump in my throat would not let me swallow. In these moments, I cried with utter despair. Exposure to my family and hometown during Christmas holidays sparked old memories of past childhood traumas and abuse. As my past demons haunted me, night terrors would literally cause me to shriek or scream aloud in my sleep, and I would be too terrified to go back to bed for hours. Eventually, anger ensued. Deep-seated, dark anger. This image was for anyone who ever hit me, and for every man who ever threatened, harassed, or assaulted me. In Freudian theory, the doppelganger is a prevalent theme which typically takes on one of two different forms: an identical self or a polar opposite. Either forms of the doppelganger is a manifestation of our repressions, which often emerge as an antagonist that contains our dark and socially unacceptable and sometimes violent side. Doppelgangers run throughout this series, acting out my taboo states. The doppelganger can be found throughout literary and film history, right up to the present, in examples such as the movie Black Swan. Is it possible that photographs act in essence as our doppelgangers? Freud and others claim that the doll, as seen in different forms throughout Susan and Dina's work, as well as in certain grotesque works by Cindy Sherman, are poignant examples of the uncanny, something that looks as familiar as our own bodies, but which it does not. Is it possible that through photographing dolls, mannequins, alter egos, doppelgangers and other forms, that we have found a socially acceptable way to allow our impressions to come to the surface and speak out on taboo issues that otherwise might be ignored completely by society? Through photography and taboo, we as artists are able to give visual reference to the female psyche in order to illustrate our desires, fears, and anxieties. I wonder, are all staged photographs projections of our repressed anxieties? I think I'm in a different format because I'm working at a PC. The focus on psyche and turning the camera inwards has been a key point of illumination that differentiates the work of Generation X artists, such as ourselves here today, from that of the baby boomers, whose work focused more directly on issues such as women's rights and mass media representation. Critics often ask whether the feminist agenda is complete. In my opinion, not by a long shot. Before concluding our discussion, I'd like to show you a brief set of slides whose images are intentionally unlabeled to remove them from their context. They are examples of work by the women artists discussed here today, compared with work by noted male Vancouver-based conceptual photographers. I expect that you'll recognize at least half of the works. Did we get are we on radio? Being recorded on radio here this evening?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just in case anybody is recording, maybe I'll just tell you who these artists are. The one on the left, that's Rodney Graham. I believe it's called the sous chef taking a cigarette break. And that is Dina Goldstein's Not So Little Red Riding Hood. On the left is Evan Lee's Helium Balloon. And on the right is Birthe Piontek. Birthe, didn't you have a title for this one? Myself on the left, and Rodney Graham's self-portrait called Actor-Director on the right. Evan Lee on the left, Birthe Piontek on the right. Rodney Graham's City Self, Country Self on the left. And it's interesting, he's got his two alter egos. His City Self, the refined dandy in Paris, kicking his country bumpkin self in the butt. On the other side is a work of my own called Mixed Heritage, and it shows, sort of embodies influences from my two parental sides. My mother would teach me to paint my nails, serve tea, all those little ladylike things. Well, my father, on the other hand, would be fixing his garage in fixing his motorbike in the garage as he listened to Alice Cooper and Black Sabbath records. He's actually a very well-known politician today and is quite respectable. On the left is Birthe Piontek. On the right, I'm sorry, that's Dina Goldstein's work. And on the right is Stan Douglas. On the left is Susan Bozic. And Stan Douglas, again Again, on the right. We've got Tim Lee here on the left, and here's Piontek on the right. Reflecting back on one of my original questions, through our allegories and the examples we've shown you today, we hope to have illuminated some ideas of how our work is different than male artists working in the same genre. Although these works you've just seen are not that different visually, the status of the male versus female artists are quite significantly different. Once our male counterparts are stripped of their massive production budgets, teams of assistants, light-scale prints and light boxes, essentially having their name in lights, and reduced instead to simply one JPEG side by side with another, the most tangible difference is simply that our art is inherently feminine. Artwork done in a feminine style is often regarded as being decorative, and therefore overlooked for its critical credibility. And so it's easy to miss the many layers of conceptual depth, years of development and research concealed within the glossy mask that we as women have been raised since birth to present through. But to strip away the feminine aspect to our art would be to concede that there is something inherently wrong with femininity. With the support of our partners, families, friends, colleagues, and the gatekeepers of our industries, we are certain that we cannot just endure, but also thrive. Regardless of the challenges that we as women, as artists, and as individuals face, the determination and endurance of our efforts is clear. We will not back down. Julia, were you going to do Q&A? I guess we can just wing it. Yeah. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, yes, over there. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you. It was 4 years. It was 2005 to 2005.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The question was like other passerbys,
I'm sorry?
were there any passerbys? What's their reaction?
It was different. It was like, sometimes it was great. There's the image on the yacht. Was taken with me, and of course, was busy. I try to be as discreet as possible, but you can't really. Nice as napkin, can't really quite like. Sometimes your life's consistent. You have to have lots of stuff. And I remember when I try not to focus on people because I just want to get out of there, just want to do my job. But I remember one comment I overheard was, "He's hot." I just laughed. It's great, you know. It would vary, you know. The beach, the initial beach was shot at Kitsilano Beach, and intentionally I started from the dock part, which is not far, you know, and kind of just because of the sun, I kept moving because of this location of the sun, and gradually I ended up being the location I did not want to be, which was right in the middle of the beach. And at that case, I think there's a little boy who came up, and he's just like, you know, looking at like, what's going on, right? So it's always different, but definitely was something that people would stop and would want to sort of ask questions of what's going on. And as my sister was working with, please answer questions because I have to just stay focused to make sure I complete the work.
Let's speculate. That's sort of you were sort of just touching on performance art there. Is that something that inspired your work?
I think anytime you put yourself in front of a camera, there's going to be a performative element, especially if it's not about the life of a character. So I don't know if I can say there's one particular artist, but in those images, not so different from normal life. There was enough, so I sort of psychologically prepared myself that once I put the wig on, that I was transformed. I wasn't myself. I was this character called Carlos.
Wonderful, thank you. Peter?
Yeah, this is a great question. Maybe it is, I don't know. But the scene where you were sitting having dinner with the family,
Yes.
there's something really haunting about that. I felt like you were morphing into one of them. Like it was,
Yeah, that was the second part, and actually, I agree with you. Like, I look at those images, and sometimes I think, oh, she's becoming a little bit more.
it was a little scary.
Yeah, she's becoming a little bit more like this family, like a little bit sort of more animated, a little bit. I think what happens is that the idea of perfectionism sort of caught on. I mean, that was sort of based on advertising. There's no room for error, really.
Did it spook you a little bit maybe when you saw it?
Did it spook me?
Yeah.
That should be coming that way?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, I find knowledge a creative process. You're on a little bit of precipice as it is. And I don't know, I don't know, it's weird, but if I did that myself and then saw it after the process, I'd be a little scared myself, because I would think, oh my God, like, what's happening
I never
here?
thought I was becoming her. Like, I never had that sort of crisis. But when I saw the work later, even after a certain time where I wasn't working on the project anymore and I started detaching, I had this time to sort of have these fresh eyes again, to see it for the first time. And it kind of just shocked me a little bit. Oh, gee, what happened here? You know?
I guess that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
Does Carl live with you now?
I'm sorry?
Does Carl live with you now?
Carl's in storage. Should a cameo never present itself?
Well, do you miss him?
Maybe a reunion. I don't know.
It seemed to me the ideal man was one we couldn't talk about.
And that's kind of what you get Carl. I mean, everything that you sort of want and all your idealisms and all that, you can project that onto him and they become real. So anything you want is real because it's Carlos your mirror, everything.
The further row back there, if you have your,
Yeah, I'm curious, I'd like to ask each of you if you have sort of a glimmer of what's coming next, what your next project is.
I think so. I'm kind of putting my thought towards what people have been coming forwards to me about. A lot of reporters have been either emailing me or visiting my website and asking for my professional opinion on the topic of the selfie, which I think is really interesting because I've been doing self-portraiture for 20 years, never called it a selfie, but I think it's time that we examine this. It's a mass media phenomenon that is simply a new step in democratizing self-representation. I think back about painting and how portraits were always painted of aristocracy or religious figures. And once the camera was invented, middle class people were able to begin immortalizing themselves. They didn't need to be able to afford a portrait painter. So it was a really, the camera was a really democratizing medium. And now in this last, 10 to 15 years since we've had cell phones, everybody with a cell phone is in a way a photographer. And they have that ability to self-represent both through their smartphones and also through mass media. So I think this is a really important direction that we need to be aware of and to consider in our own practices, being artists of self-portraiture.
Well, I'm not planning on doing pictures of myself for the rest of my life. I think the project is done. I might, I have like new projects lined up in various stages. I'm actually, where I'm coming from is that I consider myself more like portrait photographer, I'm really interested in other people. It's kind of funny that we're like, like the past 5 years, I was really busy looking at myself, but I'm quite interested in other people as well, and the work I've done before and the work I'm planning on doing now is definitely turning my camera away from myself and like working with other people again. But what I'm hoping for is whatever I've learned in through that project, through the Mindset project, that I can apply that to the next work. And that's probably always in a way the case. As you go along and as you go through life and as you work and you have gain knowledge and experience and what I'm probably aiming for is or what I struggled with as a portrait photographer is that as much as I love taking portraits, there was always like a little bit of that moment where I felt like I wouldn't really be able to access this other person's identity really. Like there was always a bit of this like facade that you cannot, or like the wall. I always refer to it as like the wall that I hit, and I wouldn't really be able to see underneath or behind. And I think the Lying Still project was kind of like was born in that moment where I kind of felt like I want to access other parts, like I want to go deeper and express what's lying there deeper, and I couldn't necessarily do this with other people because there is of course like a certain kind of barrier or distance. But I'm hoping, like I haven't really fully figured it out, but I'm hoping for the next project that I'm looking at, that I'll be able to include whatever I've learned in the Lying Still project. Yeah.
Thank you, Birthe. Are there any other questions? Susan, please. Susan, maybe, sorry.
I am currently working on a project called 7,000 Kilometers, and unlike the dating portfolio, which is not about my life, 7,000 Kilometers is. And it is about a relationship that I was in with a man that I met in St. Petersburg, Russia. So it is a real life love story, a long distance love story. And so currently I'm working on completing the music, which I'm working with a local DJ, and it will be about 15 to 19 minutes long. And basically, it came out of the experience of sitting in front of my computer, of building this relationship, this unexpected relationship with this man who lives literally across, the other side of the world, and feeling like I needed to do something. I needed to try to make art from this because I thought I was spending so much time with this person in this computer that, and the story I found that although I was living it, I found it quite interesting, and so that's what I'm working on.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, this is for you. I'm really interested in the point that you kind of concluded on. And I don't know if you can really answer this briefly, but I just wanted to know if you could expand on what makes a work inherently feminine, or how you kind of go about identifying that.
Well, I had an art critic, an art dealer over a couple of years ago, and it was probably the worst studio visit that I've ever had in my life. One of the things he said that stuck in my mind was, what makes this art and not design? And I thought it was kind of a slap across the face, and I wasn't sure if it was referring to the Marie Antoinette series or to some text-based mirrors that I had created. And when I thought about all the other artists that worked in either genre, there's loads and loads, endless loads of artists who work with text-based work and on objects that can actually be functional objects. And then when I think of, Rodney Graham's work, which is very similar to my own, I was blown away by that comment. He said, your work is very beautiful, but what makes this art and not design? I just thought it was incredulous. And I'm not sure, maybe some of you could tell me why women are not rising in the art world in as great numbers as men are. I'd love to hear your opinions on it.
The media,
The media?
they're not covering it.
We have a couple media.
But to the same numbers.
Yeah.
To the same, not interested in the same way that they could be.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly. And I recently saw a film with a number of Vancouver-based artists, and I wondered, why aren't there any women artists in this film? And I actually found out from a woman that had been filmed for that, and somehow made the cutting room floor. Even she couldn't, even as a token woman, they chose to cut her out. And she also raised an important point. She said, even though we have so many female gatekeepers in the art world, we have so many wonderful women facilitating art as gallery directors, curators, gallery owners, art critics, but they're still choosing to go with the always going to be popular male artists.
I was actually thinking about that recently myself, how many curators and gallery owners and powerful women there are in the art world. And it actually reminds me a little bit of in high school when the basketball team always had 2 female managers that would travel with them on their game tours. And I don't know if that is, like, I don't know if that addresses why, but it reminds me of it. Like, I don't know if those women are somehow drawn to those men because they think of them as powerful and sexy or something and makes them want to manage it, or there's something there that I think is very interesting.
Yeah, it actually bothers me to see so many women in administrative positions that are facilitating male artists. I myself have done a lot of volunteer work, particularly it's become almost a full-time job for me after the past 2.5 years. And I recently looked around and I thought, I don't see any male artists on the board of directors with me. There's 6 out of 7 directors, only 1 male, 6 female. All of the guys that I went to art school with, they don't do volunteer work. They're focused solely on their own careers. And maybe we should be too. Katie.
Yeah, Holly, I really wanted to bring up the comparison that you keep drawing between yourself, female artists, and your male counterparts. And you're highlighting the success of these male artists. And I'm wondering if you feel that their success has somehow inhibited your own success. And especially with your statement at the end that we will not back down. And I'm wondering if the other panelists feel that the same way, if the success of your male counterparts is somehow inhibiting your own success.
Yeah, I have to say that I have a bit of mixed feelings, really mixed feelings in a way that I hear that and I there's evidence, there's especially if you look at Vancouver and there's Vancouver is so well known for all these like male wonderful photographers or artists, and not really necessarily a lot of female artists maybe come to mind when people think of like the Vancouver art scene, at least international. At least that's what can I say as a German person who went to German art school and grew up in Germany, and what everybody in Germany knows about Vancouver is definitely Jeff Wall and Courtney Graham, and that's pretty much it. I don't necessarily though. So I see this, and it makes me wonder, but I don't necessarily feel that,
Why does
And
the
then-
gender of the artist have to matter?
yeah, and I want to I feel like I need to speak up for Dina, who's not here with us, but in spirit. And we had this discussion when we got together for a brief kind of like meeting, and when Dina was kind of voicing her opinion, and Dina said, like, I don't buy this, and I don't believe this, that women are actually weaker, or that female artists are not having the same opportunities than men. I believe what only matters is the work. And if your work is good enough, and if your work is, you know, like really good, a good body of work, then you have all the like same opportunities.
Yeah, I think by putting the female artist in this role of the victim, I think that's sort of stepping back a little bit.
I
It's kind of the
definitely-
opposite of feminism, and I feel like we're a little bit beyond needing to be feminists in the art world at this point. I mean, all of our personal endeavors, what we communicate for our art is totally relevant, male or female.
I agree, but if you look at the statistics and you wonder why women artists have such a hard time, why statistically women have so fewer solo shows at major galleries, I guess I just can't accept the fact that we're not as smart as men, because that seems to be what those comments are implying, that we're not smart enough to make work that is good enough to be in those places. And I can't accept that. So I'm looking for other reasons. I mean, there's got to be something. Are we not getting as many grants? Are they not taking our proposals as seriously? What is it? Why are those statistics what they are?
But it's the same in the business world, it's the same anywhere. You know, sexism.
Exactly. Well, you guys have all been very patient. I know that there's a bartender back there waiting for you. Thank you very much to the Museum of Vancouver for hosting this discussion this evening. And thank you so much to Capture for all of their help in promotion and arranging with this. And of course, thank you to the Contemporary Art Society of Vancouver for believing in this talk and supporting it. Thank you all and have a great evening.